One of the most profound and difficult questions in life is, why do bad things happen to good people? If someone is kind, honest, and compassionate, shouldn't life reward them with happiness and success? And yet, we often see suffering, misfortune, and pain falling upon those who seem least deserving. From a Buddhist perspective, this question can only be fully understood by examining key concepts such as karma, impermanence, suffering, and the path to enlightenment. Buddhism does not see suffering as a punishment, but rather as a natural part of existence, a process through which we grow in wisdom and compassion. Buddhism teaches that every experience in life, whether good or bad, arises due to karma, the law of cause and effect. Every action, thought, and intention creates an imprint on our consciousness, which eventually leads to corresponding consequences. However, karma does not always ripen immediately. The suffering a good person faces today may not be because of their present deeds, but due to past actions, whether in this life or in previous ones. For example, a farmer who plants mango seeds will eventually reap mangoes, but not immediately. Similarly, a person's good deeds today may bear fruit in the future, while hardships faced now may be the result of past karmic actions. This perspective helps us understand that suffering is not random. Rather, it is a continuation of a cause and effect cycle. Another key Buddhist teaching is impermanence. Life is constantly changing. Joy, sorrow, wealth, poverty, health, and sickness are all transient. Even the most virtuous people are not immune to sickness, accidents, or losses because life itself is unpredictable. Buddhism teaches that clinging to the idea that life should always be fair leads to suffering. Instead, by accepting impermanence, we learn to navigate life's ups and downs with wisdom and inner peace. According to the Four Noble Truths, suffering is an unavoidable part of human existence. Even good people cannot escape suffering because it is an inherent aspect of life. However, Buddhism teaches that suffering is not a punishment, but a teacher. It helps us grow in wisdom, patience, and compassion. A kind person who experiences hardship may deepen their understanding of suffering, making them even more compassionate towards others. Just as fire refines gold, challenges refine the heart and mind, leading to greater spiritual growth. Buddhism also recognizes that suffering is not always personal. It is often a result of collective karma. Just as individuals have karma, families, societies, and even entire nations have shared karma consequences. A good person might suffer not because of their own deeds, but because they are part of a larger web of interdependent actions. A wise and compassionate monk may suffer in a war-torn country, not because of personal karma, but due to the collective karma of the people in that land. This understanding helps us develop greater compassion, realizing that we are all connected in ways beyond our immediate perception. Many people assume that life should be fair, that good people should always be rewarded, and bad people should always suffer. However, Buddhism teaches that fairness is a human-made concept, not a natural law of the universe. The world operates through karmic laws, which are complex and not always immediately visible. If someone does good, they will receive good in return, but not necessarily in the way or timeline they expect. Similarly, those who commit harmful actions will eventually face the consequences, though it may not be apparent in this lifetime. Instead of asking, "Why me?" when facing hardships, Buddhism encourages us to ask, "What can I learn from this?" Every difficulty is an opportunity for growth. Suffering teaches resilience, patience, and wisdom. Many enlightened beings, including the Buddha himself, faced immense suffering before attaining awakening. Buddhism offers practical tools such as meditation, mindfulness, and ethical living to help navigate suffering with grace and wisdom. Rather than resisting suffering, Buddhism teaches us to accept and transform it. When good people suffer, they have two choices: resist and complain, which leads to more suffering. Accept and use suffering as a path to growth and enlightenment. The Buddha himself faced great hardships before attaining enlightenment. His journey teaches us that suffering is not an obstacle, but a teacher. Through mindfulness, we learn to observe suffering without being consumed by it. Compassion, karuna, allows us to use our experiences to help others. A person who has suffered deeply can guide others who are struggling, turning pain into a source of wisdom. Buddhist scriptures contain many stories illustrating the principles of karma and suffering. One famous story is about a man who questioned why he suffered despite his good deeds. The Buddha explained that his current suffering was the result of past actions, but his present kindness was planting the seeds for future happiness. Another story tells of a monk who endured hardships with unwavering patience. His suffering purified his karma, leading him to enlightenment. Buddhism teaches that true happiness does not come from avoiding suffering, but from understanding and transcending it. The Eightfold Path offers a way to live with wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline, leading to inner peace regardless of external circumstances. From a Buddhist perspective, the question is not, why do bad things happen to good people? But rather, how can we use suffering to grow? Instead of viewing suffering as unfair, Buddhism teaches us to see it as part of the greater cycle of karma and impermanence. By cultivating wisdom and compassion, we can rise above misfortune and help others do the same. As the Buddha said, just as a lotus grows in muddy water, yet remains unstained, so too can we rise above suffering and bloom with wisdom and compassion.